From the Love and Stuff community, happy MLK Day to all. As we celebrate the drum major for justice, the drum major for peace, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., it is not lost on the Love and Stuff community and the For Love of Justice community that we're living in a time where men are placed in office based on the color of their skin and not the content of their character. The work of freedom, the work of equality, the work of equity and justice is not done. You can clearly see that there is much work to be done. Put your hand to the plow. Do your part to help elevate the voices of equity and justice for all. It is under attack. And while people say, don't be woke, you are awakened every day. Don't be desensitized to what you are awakened to. I hope you will enjoy this replay. It has pieces that are specific to periods, but it is a celebration nonetheless of our drum major for justice, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. May we reinvigorate the dream, live it, do it, and be it. Enjoy.
I have the pleasure to present to you Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr.
I am happy to join with you today in what will go down in history as the greatest demonstration for freedom in the history of our nation. Five score years ago, a great American in whose symbolic shadow we stand today signed the Emancipation Proclamation. This momentous decree came as a great beacon light of hope to millions of Negro slaves who had been seared in the flames of withering injustice. It came as a joyous daybreak to end the long night of their captivity. But 100 years later, the Negro still is not free. 100 years later, the life of the Negro is still sadly crippled by the manacles of segregation and the chains of discrimination. 100 years later, the Negro lives on a lonely island of poverty. I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. I have a dream that one day on the red hills of Georgia, the sons of former slaves and the sons of former slave owners will they be able to sit down together at the table of brotherhood. I have a dream that one day, even the state of Mississippi, a state sweltering with the heat of injustice, sweltering with the heat of oppression, will be transformed into an oasis of freedom and justice. I have a dream. My four little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. I have a dream today. I have a dream that one day, down in Alabama, with its vicious racists, with its governor having his lips dripping with the words of interposition and nullification. One day right there in Alabama, little black boys and black girls will be able to join hands with little white boys and white girls as sisters and brothers. I have a dream today. One day every valley shall be exalted, and every hill and mountain shall be made low. The rough places will be made plain, and the crooked places will be made straight, and the glory of the Lord shall be revealed, and all flesh shall see it together. This is our hope. This is the faith that I go back to the South with. With this faith, we will be able to hew out of the mountain of despair a stone of hope. With this faith, we will be able to transform the jangling discords of our nation into a beautiful symphony of brotherhood. With this faith, we will be able to work together, to pray together, to struggle together, to go to jail together, to stand up for freedom together, knowing that we will be free one day. This will be the day when all of God's children will be able to sing with new meaning, my country, tears of thee. Sweet land of liberty, of thee I sing. Land where my fathers died, land of the pilgrim's pride. From every mountainside, let freedom ring. And if America is to be a great nation, this must become true. And so let freedom ring. From the prodigious hilltops of New Hampshire, let freedom ring. From the mighty mountains of New York, let freedom ring. From the heightening Alleghenies of Pennsylvania, let freedom ring. From the snow-capped Rockies of Colorado, let freedom ring. From the curvaceous slopes of California. But not only that, let freedom ring from Stone Mountain of Georgia. Let freedom ring from Lookout Mountain of Tennessee. Let freedom ring from every hill and molehill of Mississippi, from every mountainside. Let freedom ring in Whitney Capital. When we allow freedom ring, when we let it ring from every village and every hamlet, from every state and every city, we will be able to speed up that day when all of God's children, black men and white men, Jews and Gentiles, Protestants and Catholics, will be able to join hands and sing in the words of the old Negro spiritual, free at last, free at last, thank God Almighty, we are free.
Lift every voice and sing.
I am full already. Excited for a wonderful evening celebration. I am Marcus Holmes, and I'm excited that you have joined me, whether you are with us from the Love and Stuff community page, from which we emanate tonight, the Marcus R. Holmes page here on Love and Stuff on Facebook, whether you're with us via Restream on LinkedIn Live or Twitch TV or YouTube events. I'm excited that Tyron McTaw, Annette Green, Andre Hutchins, Chantel, Michelle, Tammy Williams, Deborah Bishop, all of you that are joining us, Nicole Baldwin, Bilal Muhammad, Valerie Colbert, Asamwadi, Tyra Gaines, Rajiv from YouTube, all of you that have joined us across all platforms. I'm excited that you're here. And I must admit, I'm a good Baptist boy. And so now I'm ready to shout after having that presentation from the Aeolians, the arrangement of Dr. Roland Carter, Lift Every Voice and Sing. I thought it would be a fitting way to start, and I didn't think it would rouse me into a shout this quickly, but it's a fitting way to start because I want you to lift every voice and vote. I want us to have a call to action. And I believe that this day of service that some say is a day of service, and some say a day of celebration, a day of reflection. I want it to be a day of call to action, that we understand that our journey to the kinds of freedoms that we want to enjoy is not linear. And there is a struggle going on in our world. And I have gathered some people that mean a whole lot to the Love and Stuff community and to me personally, who are some great minds that I want to, throughout our journey this year, in an important year of elections. I don't know if you're watching what's happening around voting rights, and I don't know if you understand it's under attack, but we really need to stand up and make a difference if we really want to live in the spirit of the great drum major for justice, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And so, having said that, I'm just going to read a bit of his speech from 1957 from the Give Us the Ballot, just a section before I begin bringing on our speakers. I'm so excited to have them here, and I will introduce them individually, and then they'll come and talk with us a little bit on a panel, because I really want to talk about what you and I can do, where we don't always think that we have power, but you have some power, and probably untapped in the way that you are using it today. And so we want to encourage you to lift every voice and vote. What a sacred privilege. That is our right that is under attack, and you and I can make a difference. And so with that, I'm going to read a small section of Give Us the Ballot, a small piece of this from the speech that was done in 1957 in Washington, D.C. Just a section of it. Mr. Chairman, distinguished platform associates, fellow Americans. 3 years ago, the Supreme Court of this nation rendered in simple, eloquent, and unequivocal language a decision which will long be stenciled on the metal sheets of succeeding generations. For all men of goodwill, this May 17th decision came as a joyous daybreak to end the long night of human captivity. It came as a great beacon of light, of hope to millions of disinherited people throughout the world who had dared only to dream of freedom. Unfortunately, this noble and sublime decision has not gone without opposition. This opposition has often risen to ominous proportions. Many states have risen up in open defiance. The legislative halls of the South ring loud with such words as interposition and nullification. But even more, all types of conniving methods are still being used to prevent Negroes from becoming registered voters. The denial of this sacred right is a tragic betrayal of the highest mandates of our democratic tradition. And so our most urgent request to the President of the United States and every member of Congress is to give us the right to vote. Give us the ballot, and we will no longer have to worry the federal government about our basic rights. Give us the ballot, and we will no longer plead to the federal government for passage of an anti-lynching law. We will, by the power of our own vote, write the law on the statute books of the South and bring an end to the dastardly acts of the hooded perpetrators, of violence. Give us the ballot, and we will transform the salient misdeeds of bloodthirsty mobs into the calculated good deeds of orderly citizens. Give us the ballot, and we will fill our legislative halls with men of goodwill and send to the sacred halls of Congress men who will not sign a Southern manifesto because of their devotion to the manifesto of justice. Give us the ballot, and we will place judges on the benches of the South, who will do justly and love mercy. And we will place at the head of the Southern states governors who have felt not only the tang of the human, but the glow of the divine. Give us the ballot, and we will quietly and nonviolently, without rancor or bitterness, implement the Supreme Court's decision of May 17, 1954. In this juncture of our nation's history, there is an urgent need for dedicated and courageous leadership. If we are to solve the problems ahead and make racial justice a reality, this leadership must be fourfold. And he goes on. Doesn't that sound like today in so many instances? It's almost prophetic. It sounds like we're almost in the similar place as we were then that we are today. And speaking of today, as we get more into the words of Dr. Martin Luther King and the ideology that we all are embodying and embracing, hopefully, about the vote and the power of the vote, I'm privileged to first bring a face that is not unfamiliar to the Love and Stuff community. She is a staple in our Love and Stuff community. She hails from Texas via Detroit. She is a pastor and doctoral candidate. She is an actor and activist. And I'm excited to have her among our group today. Pastor Valencia Etner from Lufkin, Texas, the Miles Chapel CME Church, joins us now, and she will speak to us in the way that she is led on this great day of celebration. Click share. Tap 5 of your closest Facebook friends, YouTube subscribers, Twitch TV followers, LinkedIn Live connections to join us. You don't want to miss a moment of this wonderful presentation. Valencia Etner.
Good evening, good afternoon, evening to each of you. On this day where we stop, we pause. I know for many, this was a day of service. For others, this was a day of celebration with parades and that kind of thing. But for those of us who are consistently on this front line, who are doing service in our way, you know, one of the things that we've got to understand is that Dr. King understood that service comes in many different ways. What's service for you may not be service for me. So for those of us who are serving consistently, this is a day of refueling, of remembering, of getting marching orders back, of remembering that when we are coming together, that we cannot afford to lay low and to act as if what's going on in our world doesn't affect us. This is a refuel day. And so if you're one of those persons who has been on the sidelines saying, you know, whatever, it's not going to matter that much. You know, we don't really need to vote. They're going to do what they want to do. You know, we get caught up in the conspiracy of it all. We get caught up in the fact that we're a little disillusioned by the things that we've wanted that have not necessarily come to fruition. What I want to remind you today is that Dr. King says something that was very important, that's been very important for my life. And it doesn't matter whether or not you're a marcher or a writer or a talker or just one who is supportive of those who do that. He says that our lives began to end the day we become silent about the things that matter. In the end, we will remember not the words of our enemies, but the silence of our friends. Either we're free in awe or not free at all. That particular quotation from Dr. King resonates so strongly with me because I am afraid that in this time in which we are living, that we have gotten so caught up in the things that the opiates of the world, those things that have taken our minds off of our struggle, that we only look up when we have a catastrophe, when we have a travesty like that happened to George Floyd. And as horrible as that was, when we sit on the sidelines all the rest of the time, then things like that can happen. And people really think they can get away with it because we've been silent. I want to implore us, encourage us today that our silence is more deafening than any words, pejorative words, any words that someone can throw at us, any calling of names, any making it difficult for us to achieve. Our silence is more deafening than that. Dr. King, in his speech, The Drum Major Instinct, reminded us that for all of us, we, even as little babies, that they're bundles of ego. We always want to be first, or we always want people to recognize what we do. We want to be appreciated for who we are and what we do, and to be acknowledged. And there's nothing wrong with that. But when we get to a place where we are so caught up in what the accessories are, what the world's standards are, that we forget that there's a core to our character, that there's a core to our integrity, then what we've said is that Dr. King's words, and more importantly for my life, the words of Jesus, which he followed, don't matter. That it doesn't matter that we need to care for one another. It doesn't matter that we need to remember to love one another, even when we're different. And yes, that's hard sometimes. It's hard because we live in an age, we live in a culture that would rather hate than love, because hate fuels the things that keep us going. Hate fuels capitalism. So if you think that it's good, just remember that every time we hate, we create a space for people to make and to be lucrative at our expense. That love brings us to a place where we can be in community with one another. And again, I know that's not easy. It's not easy when hate is being spewed at you. It is not easy, but do you think it was easy for either of the persons who I just mentioned? It was not easy for Dr. King, and we know it sure wasn't easy for Jesus. So as we are dealing, or as we're spending this time commemorating and spending time with Dr. King's words, remember that he told us that we are drum majors, and we're going to be drum majors no matter where we are, because there's always someone we want to follow us. We always want to be out front in some way. But can we be careful that we are not drum majors for negativity, that we become drum majors for positivity, that we become drum majors for love and for hope and for peace and for justice, and that the way that we live out our lives, even in our drum major mindset, is that we try to make a difference in the world in which we live. No, it will not always be a place where someone is accepting us or asking us to be who we are. But that's when we have to know that our boldness, our understanding of who we are and what it is that we have to offer matters so much more than anything that we can feel from outside. That what's going on in the inside of you, that drum major that wants to do good, that wants to make a difference, let that be your lead. Don't allow this culture we live in that would diffuse anything that you would want to do, that would take your destiny and throw it away, that would make you feel like you have to be reduced to nothingness, make you feel like you can't move forward, that you can't do that which is going to make a difference in your community, in your family, in your life. Dr. King would have us know that dream that he talked about was not a dream that he felt could not come to fruition. He really believed in his heart that we would get there. Yes, there are some things that we can be excited about. But if we continue to allow ourselves to be silent in the face of injustice, we will find ourselves, as he says, as he tells us, that you'll find yourself in a place where you're drifting. And we don't want to be drifters. If we're going to be first, and America loves to be first, then let's be first in care. Let's be first in love. Let's be first in helping one another. Let's be first in grace. I pray that on this King Day, you're reevaluating how you can be a better drum major in your place of influence, in the sphere of your influence in your life, in your family, at your jobs, in your churches, because we could do oh so much better. And I pray that you will take this time as we stop and commemorate Dr. King to refuel your service. For if we're going to be great, as Jesus said, and Dr. King reminded us, we must first be servants. God bless you.
Absolutely awesome. Thank you, Pastor Valencia Etner from Miles Chapel CME Church and a staple in the Love and Stuff community. We must refuel and recharge that we can be drum majors for justice ourselves. Thank you so much for that. I'm ready to bring up our next speaker. I'm looking for his face to, Houston, Texas. Help me out. I done put her in some small town. I'm sorry, Miles Chapel. I love y'all. You're in Texas. You stole our folks. That's all I want you really to know. She's from Detroit. That's what I really want you to know. But being kind to Miles Chapel and grateful that she's there serving she is doing. Thank you for that challenge to us to refuel and recharge so that we can be drum majors for justice, that we can walk in the spirit and the life and legacy of the great Dr. Martin Luther King. We do need to recharge and refuel. Our next speaker is also hailing from Detroit. Hey, what can I say? We got some great people here. But he is now living in Tulsa, Oklahoma. And I am excited to have him here with us, waiting for him to come on the screen. I've got a still picture of you, a still picture of Dr. King coming up, Darren, but I need to have your face in the place. And he is also a staple within the Love and Stuff community. We have such great minds in and around the Love and Stuff community. And I want to have your questions for them later when we're going to have a little bit of a panel discussion with them. But I really want to bring these minds together throughout the year to help us, because I believe whatever state you live in, we're in a battleground. And there are some things that we need to do and that we can do if we come together in solidarity. I see him now, and I'm so grateful to have educator, preacher, historian extraordinaire, Darren Williams. Hear from him.
Martin Luther King Day to you. It's wonderful, of course, to be here, to be able to celebrate in a public way, even a different public platform, what is one of the most important holidays, and to some degree in my mind, which is Dr. King's Day. But to celebrate what I think is one of the there are two figures, I believe, are the two most important and misunderstood who ever walked across the breast of human history. Dr. King and Jesus Christ. Interesting, too, how many parallels there are to their lives. But today, Dr. King, and we're happy, like I said again, that this nation has still, since 1983, has recognized and decided that as a nation, we need to pause and to remember this man, to remember his work, to remember what he did for us all. I want to start, and I understand that our emphasis is on the encouragement to be voting I think even understanding that, and I'm going to speak to that, of course. I think even understanding that is the whole impetus that goes with Dr. King's message and his work that actually gives rise to and gives that much more importance to what voting should be about for us. I posted this on Facebook on his birthday, January 15th. A real true American was born 93 years ago today. He was a reformer, as his name reveals. He grew up in a time that needed a voice because the wilderness of America was crying for one. He lived as a prophet and the moral conscience of a nation. He would cry loud and cause a reverberating echo that has not and cannot yet be silenced until justice rolls down like waters and righteousness like a mighty stream. He somehow looked into the U.S. Constitution and mystically saw himself in it. He died because he was right about those and that which was wrong, and he wouldn't be quiet. He literally gave all he had for the cause of truth, justice, freedom, and love. For him, it was all one cause, knowing it would cost him everything. I'm not convinced that we even understand him yet, 53 years after his death. The current social political climate in America again proves how sadly we failed by not listening and heeding his message. In my estimation, he and Jesus Christ were the two most important and misunderstood people to walk across the breast of human history. Some people and their work we don't remember. Some people and their work we should never forget. Nationally, he will be commemorated, celebrated, and talked about this weekend and on Monday today. Hollow and half-hearted salutation will be spoken in his honor, which is tragic because he may be the greatest single contributor to our struggle, and we owe him precious much more. He sleeps now, but the applause of being hails the man who was more awake than we all. Rest on, Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. We'll see you on the mountaintop. That was my tribute to him, along with a pictorial. You can check me out on Facebook if you want to see that. But as it comes to the issue of voting, obviously, Dr. King had a major part of the work of the civil rights movement, human rights movement, having to do with voting, understanding how the process of politics in America, how the process of everything works is a political process, and that voting is that way. That people have representation in their government. It was a large part of the work that he and so many others did. But listen to this. Let's not miss the reality. And that's what I love about Dr. King. And I hate about how we remember him today. We remix and we parse and we spin so much of what he said and what he did. But it pays us. Malcolm X, how about that? I'm quoting Malcolm X on Dr. King's holiday. Malcolm X says that of all of our studies, history is best qualified to reward our research. I won't go into trying to break that down, understand, but let me say why I use that quote in this context, because for the confused and mystical way that Dr. King is presented today, The only way to really understand the man is you've got to go back and take your look at him in history. And you will see that all of these fanciful ideas about him being a dreamer, he was not a dreamer any more than the rest of us was a dreamer. He didn't say he was a dreamer. He said that he had a dream. That's no different than any of us, sisters and brothers. We all, of course, part of the sleep world is that we do dream. But even we have an idea, we have a picture and an image of our mind and a hope in our heart about how we want things to be, a dream about the way that things could be. That's what Dr. King was talking about. He didn't say he was a dreamer. He was a worker. He was a fighter. He was a thinker. He was an organizer. He was a leader. That's what Dr. King was. You all can keep that dreamer piece. I'm not going to get into that. But to look at the man, to look at him for who he is to see a man pregnant with purpose and passion and pursuing those things. In terms of the voting, Dr. King, this is one of those kind of quotes that we don't know about him. He says, we must face the appalling fact that we have been betrayed by both the Democratic and Republican parties. And so as I talk to us in a push about urging us to vote, let me say this to us. Voting is extremely important. If it were not so, politicians and pretenders and others wouldn't work so hard throughout all of history to prevent African Americans from voting. If it were not important, so much work would not go into having that to happen. So it is important, but we cannot, ma'am, we cannot, sir, continue to be unintelligent voters. What does that mean? Voting just out of the response that our ancestors fought, bled, and died for us to have the right. Sure, that is true. But they didn't fight, bleed, and die for us to continue in the stupefying condition that we are in. We don't vote with purpose. We don't vote with a plan. So our votes don't have the power that they're supposed to have. We got to sit down and talk to each other, people. We got to sit down and understand what is happening in front of us politically. And we have to organize ourselves into voting blocks who know what the political process is and is about, and then execute. Because the responsibility of the voter is not just on the day that cast ballots. All year long, we are in a process, a political process that, number one, requires us to educate ourselves. Number two, it requires us to make sure that the process is working the way it intends to. And number three, it is to hold accountable every candidate for every office that we cast a ballot for. That's what Dr. King and those in the civil rights movement, when it came to voting, they were completely aware of those things. That's why the power that they had literally made changes on every level of society, because they were organized, they moved as, they operated as a community. That's where we have to come back to. And that's one of the ways in that we can complete the work, not the dream, but the work that Dr. King did. We fool ourselves if we continue with dream talk. That's not what we have to finish. The dream, the work that he started, that's what we have to finish in 2022. And I want to urge us, let's remember the work and roll up our sleeves and get busy doing our part in that work. I want to thank Brother Marcus again for always, at every point throughout the year, bringing important programming and broadcasting to us through Love and Stuff. He is the kind of person that is connecting what we're supposed to be doing and being together. And I appreciate so well all of the work. I appreciate it, Brother Marcus. Amen.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you. As you can tell, and you will follow Darren Williams and Valencia, they're probably a little bit more active on social media than our third guest, but nonetheless, you want to follow a lot more of the history. Darren is a history buff, as you may see. I call him a historian. And so I am going to be calling on this group and a few others to really throughout the year to ensure just what Darren is saying, that we are intelligent voters in the sense that we're learned about the process and the candidates and the issues before us that matter to us and why, and able to take action to those. So thank you so much for that, Darren Williams. We're going right to our third and final speaker before we go for a quick break and to a panel, because I want you to have the chance to ask them some questions, and I've got burning questions that I want to ask them too. So I want you to stay tuned to be able to hear from them in a panel discussion. Thank you, Michael Flanoy, and those others that are joining us. We are live and celebrating the legacy, the gift that is Dr. King. Thank you, Eric Powell. Click, share, and tag someone to join us. This third speaker, our final speaker before we go to the panel, I am just enamored with her mind, I will say that. And I am honored and privileged that she joins us. She retired from the city of Detroit. She was once corporation counsel for the city of Detroit. And let me tell you what that means in some context to me. You may have heard the name Malice Green before. And she was the one that led that team to ensure that we didn't have the kind of riot that we could have had here in the city of Detroit, to ensure that there was justice brought with dignity, honor, and respect. And that is who is rounding out the panel, who has that commendation, if you will, attached to her name, her reputation, and her legal brilliance. And you will get to glean a little bit of that. I've been so privileged to try to glean as much of it as I can, and so privileged that she is joining us here tonight. Brenda Braceful, former corporation counsel of the city of Detroit, current commissioner for the Civil Service Commission, co-chair of that commission, and just a fantastic and brilliant mind. Hear ye her.
Marcus, first of all, I want to thank you. I am honored and humbled for the invitation, and hope everyone has taken an opportunity today to commemorate and celebrate the great Dr. Martin Luther King. And my accolades to the previous speakers, Pastor Edna, the Williams, because Marcus, I thank you for bringing together people who can help lead us on our path to righteousness. And I'm like you had me saying amen, but that's okay. I was about so many quotes and reading some of Dr. King's words, and I think the important thing for us to remember is truth, even if crushed to the earth, will not die but rise again. And it is truly prophetic when you look at some of the things that happened, of the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and the Voting Rights Act, that we're still fighting some of those battles today. But if we understood the history of what it took to make those things happen, we would not be surprised. While Lyndon Johnson picked up the torch after President Kennedy's assassination to spirit the Civil Rights Act through both the House and the Senate, you have to remember that there was a 55-day filibuster. That means people stood up and talked for 54 days straight to try and defeat the Civil Rights Act of 1964. So you cannot be surprised when you see the pushback today. And the same is true with the Voting Acts, right? These things did not pass unanimously, and they were not embraced by all. And you had southern states and and some far western states who sought to find a state's vehicle around implementing federal voting rights. So while we have to appreciate that we're not always fighting flesh and blood, just like we're not always being beat back from the polls by armed troops, fire hoses, and dogs, there is still a very active desire, because people recognize if we fully embrace the vote and exercise it, then they cannot win. So there's an attempt to try and suppress the vote. And we just need to be conscious of that. This is something new. It has happened before, and as often happens in history, if you don't understand history, you are doomed to repeat it. We cannot be complacent and think that we have reached the mountaintop. We are still on an upward trajectory, and we have to be conscientious about that. In terms of the importance of the vote, if you have any doubt, look at two recent cases that captured the nation's attention, and look at the actions of the judges involved who were elected officials and how it impacted the outcome. Look at the judge in the Kyle Rittenhouse case, how he made every effort to humanize this young man who traveled across state lines and killed two people and never expressed any remorse about the loss of life. And how when the case was prepared to go to the jury, he dismissed the gun count, where there was no doubt the man had a gun, carried the gun, to give them license to try and find a way to exonerate him. And then look at the judge in the Ahmaud Arbery case, who maintained a steady hand and allowed the to present a case that these men basically chased this man like you would chase an animal and extinguish his life. The voting is important. Those two cases should really make a case for you. And when you look at the response to the pandemic, how people are treating whether or not we should take protective action, whether or not we should wear, how supplies will be distributed, how funds will be distributed to give people rent relief, all those things are a result of the people that are placed in office that have an impact on your life. So there was a reason that our forefathers stood in line. There's a reason that people withstood poll tax, threats to their life, their jobs, because they understood that voting was a way to speak truth to power, and that it was a way to have your voice heard. So we can never become complacent and think that, oh, my vote doesn't matter, because every vote matters. Because if nothing else, politicians have to be responsive to people who are voting. You can organize, have an agenda, have a plan. People have to listen to you. We've seen it here in Michigan with the redistricting. In the past, redistricting way for people to try and secure their majority, even if the districts were drawn what they used to call a gerrymander, because drawn with such obtuse lines. But having to respond to the people to ensure that you don't dilute the voting block and the voting power of minorities. That's why we have in Dearborn the first Muslim mayor. That's why in Hamtramck, the number of immigrants came in, you have your first non-Polish mayor. We have to understand that of the people and by the people requires the work of the people. And so, I want to, be too adamant and get on my soul. I just, in any other city, if we don't have 75% or above participation, miss the message of Dr. King and all those people who gave so much of their time, so much of their energy, and some situations, even their very lives, to ensure that we have the right to be heard. So there is no way that we can diminish the importance of voting. And voting is an individual act gains even more power when we work collectively. So look at voter registration drives. We need to look at voter education. We need to look at ensuring that the candidates are responsive to the community, because all those things will impact the quality of life in our community. You're right, I'm not as savvy on some of the social media platforms, but I do in my own way, in terms of activism through do a newsletter for my church. I always remind people how to cast their absentee ballots, educate people about the different ways to vote, of which there's a huge attack because people don't want to see us coming out in numbers. And I have to repeat a quote of Dr. King's that I said to my grandson this morning. If you can't fly, then you can walk. If you can't walk, then you can crawl. But whatever you do, you have to continue to move forward. And that is my message to our audience. Yes, we have certainly seen great strides. And I think some people felt that the election of Barack Obama signaled that, we had arrived and everything would be okay. And then, we got a wake-up call because following that, we wandered for 4 years, just like the children of Israel wandered for 40 years in the wilderness. We just had no direction, had no leadership. Pandemic came upon us, and we can see the effects of leadership and lack of vision. And so we can't believe naively that we have now remedied that with the election of President Biden, Vice President Harris, because there's still a lot of work to do. And we understand that the important thing is keep moving forward. It's just like in a car. If you're in a car and you're driving a long distance, you don't just put your foot on the gas pedal and then stop. Even if you have cruise control, you have to make sure that you are still moving forward to reach your destination. And that means you got to make sure you're refueled. You got to make sure your car is operational, and you have to understand where you're going. And all those principles ring true with us if we're going to achieve the community, and not just, and I don't mean just the Black community, but I mean the nation as a whole. If we're going to achieve the sense of community that we need to achieve, then we're all going to have to make sure we keep that pedal down and keep moving forward. So again, Marcus, I thank you so much for putting this program together, and I am just humbled and honored that you thought to include me in the number. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Brenda Bracewell. Thank you for charging us to keep moving forward. We're going to take a quick break and play one of Carolyn Tribune Brewer, her beautiful arrangements of Hold On. And then we're going to bring the full panel back because I've got questions to ask them. And if you have questions, drop those in the comments. We're talking with Valencia Etner, Pastor Valencia Etner, Reverend Darren Williams, and Brenda Bracewell, Esquire, and I appreciate all three of them. We'll be right back.
Keep your hand on that plow. Hold on, hold on, hold on. No one lets me come in. Doors are fastened and the windows bent. Keep your hand on that plow and hold on. Hold on.
Noah said you done lost your track. Can't plow straight and keep looking back. Keep your hand on that plow and hold on. Hold on. Hold on. Keep your hand on that plow and hold on.
Hold on. Hold on. Hold on.
Thank you, Carolyn Tribune Brewer, for that beautiful arrangement and the wonderful singers. Round of applause or likes, loves, whatever emoji you can drop in the comments. Thank you so much for that beautiful presentation. And I'm just full. I'm a good Baptist boy. I think I am ready to have a moment to shout, but we're pivoting a little bit into bringing all of the panel members together. And you can also drop your questions in the comment and we'll try to moderate those as well. So thank you, Valencia Etner.
Wow.
I'm sorry, Pastor Valencia Etner.
Listen,
I know, but I'm trying to do right.
I'm
the best I
somewhere
can.
else right now anyway. So
Yes.
thank you for that.
Thank you all for joining us. And Daisy Simmons is giving hearts. Thank you so much. Thank you, Andrew Crawford, Eric Powell, all of you that are joining across platforms. I'm talking with Valencia Etner, Darren Williams, Brenda Braceville, and I'm excited that all of you are here with me. Holly Wyndham on LinkedIn, click share and tag someone to join us. I have so many questions, but my thinking on this, of course, I can't ask them all to you, all of the questions I have today. But my thinking on this is throughout this year to have you and another couple of folks who, as you know, I've been inboxing you all to come together in the way of helping to inspire and educate people around this whole process, because I think that is so needed. And I think we're already in battlegrounds, right? There are so many states that have already passed the progressive language, and so many more states that have suppressive voting laws and language before them. So that's kind of my first question, because I was reading, again, Give Us the Ballot. And one of the fourfold things that Dr. King said is that we need aggressive federal leadership. And so kind of in that question, here's my question. We do need aggressive leadership, but we got all of these things happening at the state level, right? And so how do we, I don't want to use the word attack, but how do we approach this suppressive language and the filibustering that's going on the federal, like how do we as individuals come together to approach those? I could say you or you, but whomever wants to jump in.
Well, I'll
Yes.
I think first of all, we don't have to really the NAACP active your state parties, and I think if people appreciate if you can get involved on the local level, because all politics is local. If nothing more, get involved with your local chapter of the NAACP or organization. More importantly, we need to vote with our pocketbook, because let's face day and age, elections money, and people are off responsive to those people who are providing financial support. So, that's another effective way, not that you're trying to buy favor, but have a candidate who you feel is advancing your agenda, then not only show for, but show up for, so they can get their message out.
Yeah, I love that. And I just want to add to that, or maybe it might seem like a little pushback. I am a baby of the church, right? And it used to be, Brenda, that politicians came through the church. They got voted up or down by going to the church. You knew you were going to see them around election time.
Right.
But we have far fewer of the electorate that are participating in the church, far fewer of the people that could be voters participating in the church or participating in NAACP. So how do we go about re-engaging people to the stuff that's already in motion? Because I think that's an important part. If they're not connected to the NAACP or connected to the churches, how do we mobilize those people so that they get engaged in the process? And you're right, get their pocketbook engaged as well.
Let me say to what
and I think in some ways that is one of the blessings and curses of social media.
Mm-hmm. No, go ahead. I think there's a little bit of delay. So go ahead, Brenda. We'll double back to Darren.
I think that's one of both the blessings and the curses of social media, that there are alternate ways of getting the message out. If everybody can find out that the Popeyes is going to have a new chicken sandwich, there's a way for us to communicate information about, voting and political issues. And so, somehow that information is being disseminated. And in my situation, people, I start with my family. I try and make sure that all of my next generations, just like you can send auntie a text for some Zelle money, then I'm going to send you that are you registered to vote? And, start at family out from there.
Okay. Darren, jump in. You were going to say, I'm sorry.
Yes, to the first part of what Sister Braceville said in terms of, and I'm going to be less graceful than she is in the way I express the idea about money. She said that it's not buying favors. I'll characterize this way by saying that politics is a contest. It is that. In a sense, it is gamesmanship also. It's a game. And it is knowing how to play the game. Money is a huge part of the game. And part of, it was mentioned in the first segment about education and knowing the political process. Part of what a large part of the African-American community does not know is how much money does factor into what is the political process. And so I'm giving a good yes, amen to that part of what she's saying about the money part, because it's not just your paper ballot, it is your paper dollar ballots. And those two go together. They have to, if there's going to be power in your voting, if there's going to be influence in your community. Now, let me say to the question that you asked, yes, in our day, politicians knew they had to come through and buy the church in order to have the support of our people in our communities. That doesn't happen the way it used to anymore for a couple of reasons. One of those reasons is because the church has gotten too close and too involved in a way that she's never supposed to. Now, I'm going to say this part. Well, let me say it this way. Now, the government has even gotten to the place where part of our 501c3 status is affected by how we participate as a organization, the church, in the political process. But there is a way around that. We don't have to, as a church, endorse or not endorse a candidate or expose a candidate. We can develop, and we already have them, parachurch organizations. The Council of Baptist Pastors in Detroit, Ministers Alliances in cities. That's what those organizations, that's where their power is to do that. And I remember so well in Detroit how for sure nothing got done in that city. I remember when they were trying to get the casinos in Detroit, and the biggest holdout in Detroit was because the Council of Baptist Pastors kept saying no. Now, they eventually said yeah, and you'll see them in the casinos too. But there is a power that the church has to have in being separate while we're still involved in the process.
Valencia, did you want to jump in there at all?
Yeah, I do, because I see not only what we should be doing, my concern is how we're thinking. Because there's so much that we are inundated with that we fail to see the importance of who we are and what we do, and it's by design. So my concern is that there's so much out here that has pulled the mind away from civic engagement on any level, because we've gotten caught up in the what I call the opiate away from the troubles of the world, and we've gotten stuck in the things that don't allow us to even pay attention. I am amazed at how many people who are in the African American community, particularly, who never see the news, who never watch it, who don't intend to watch it, who don't engage in anything that's civic. If it's not fun or TikTok or a video, they're not engaged because they're too busy trying to deal with life on life's terms, and they don't want to add anything to that equation. And so for me, we've got to get people to see the urgency beyond just, you got to vote for a person because this person is, looks like us, or and I heard Reverend Darren earlier say we got to be strategic about what we do. We got to know who we're voting for. But if all I care about is my tribe, if all I care about is the people that I am connected to, we've got to do something about dismantling the mindset that we've gotten stuck in, so that the things that you are both saying, Sister Brenda and Brother Darren, that the things that you are both saying can mean something. Because right now, it doesn't mean anything. They're not going to hear. So our biggest problem right now is how do we get people to hear? Mm-hmm. Not about necessarily civic engagement first, but just that you have a role, that there is something that you need to be doing to make a difference in your community. And then that includes voting, that includes understanding who your judges are as you worry about JoJo who just got a case. And that case comes before a judge that you didn't go vote for because you didn't think voting was important. We got to put it in a place where it matters to them. And yes, it's dollars and cents and it's all of that, but it's making sense of the world in which we live in. And I think we struggle with that. And I think it's by design. And so we've got to dismantle, deconstruct the mindset so that we can, and that's hard work. That's daily work. That's everyday work. That's why, when people say this is a day of service ought to be going on all the time. This ought to be a day of reflection and refueling. Right. Keep doing it. But if we are going to make a difference, turn some things around, we can't let down. We cannot let down.
Yeah. And which is the second question that I was going to ask you, but I'm going to read just this part from that. Give us the ballot. Dr. King says, I cannot close without stressing the urgent need for strong, courageous, and intelligent leadership from the Negro community. We need a leadership that is 1957 calm and yet positive. And I'm going to say 2022. This is no day for the rabble rouser, whether he be Negro or white. We must realize that we are grappling with the most weighty social problem of this nation. And in grappling with such a complex problem, there is no place for misguided emotionalism, which is what people gravitate to. So how then do we re-engage people, awaken them to that this is a weighty social problem? How do we re-engage people?
I think that the fact that is true to sensitive minds ought to be enough. The fact that we are so out of touch for sensitive minds should be enough. However, it's not enough because Pastor V said it that there is an intentional distraction that is continually aimed at our people. What has to happen is not a new thing. All of history, there has been a town crier who has been a voice to continue to alert the people of what is going on. We do not have, in a way that is meaningful, enough criers who are doing that. It used to be the pastors of our churches. It used to be after that a few leaders. It's going to have to be those people again. Because we can't invent any other roles in our society. The roles are there. those people will have to take their places. Those voices will have to be heard and spoken again.
So we need town criers who help to re-engage people, to awaken them.
We got to make sure,
Yes.
let me just say this. Those town criers are celebrities in our culture. And so the struggle for those people who are those names you just named, the preachers, the people who are leaders, the people who are able to speak to people on a continual basis, unless there's enough celebrity to you, no one's listening. And so something has to give on that there has to be a means by which, maybe it's that the crier never stops crying. You know what I'm saying? That there's never an expectation of anything more than what it is that your mission is, what your calling is, and just keep doing it and keep, and if there's enough of us doing the same thing, maybe the message will be strong enough. But because we're so caught in celebrityism, unless you have a name or you have a following that's, 3.5K and above, unless you're an influencer in social media, people tend to not hear you in mass. Yet that's not a reason to stop. I just think that what we have to do is recognize that that's the way it is, and not get weary in well doing while we keep fighting the fight. But you're exactly right.
Very quickly, let me say to that, 100% correct. But it is no reason for us to be dismayed. Why? Because that was a Jesus syndrome. He understood that the majority of the people followed him because he was the celebrity of the day. Mm-hmm. What that says to us in our day is that as preachers, as pastors, as ministers of the gospel, we've got to be able to incorporate our outreach ministry where we are targeting those who are the voices. We have target ministries that outreach homeless people. We have target ministries that reach the people on the low side of society. Mm-hmm. We've got to be able to see that everybody is a target for this message that we are about, mm-hmm. and it is through them. That's why I love the work of Bernard, A.R. Bernard, Christian Cultural Center in Brooklyn, New York. Church filled with celebrities, all right? Because he understood that they are people too, and the same thing the rest of society needs, that they need. And when the celebrities who are members of his church go in public and they're talking, you know that they go to church somewhere. And that's how the rest of us have to see. Mm-hmm. Not be afraid of, not be fans of celebrities. We got to see that they need to be pulled into the work of the community also.
That's right.
Brenda, did you want to add anything there?
I agree is that, unfortunately, people are looking to follow people because people are following them without necessarily, being critical about the message. But then we can also use, I agree, we all know, reach out and have a person and implore them to use their celebrity. When you think about having your, the church, because the church is such a inside of it, there's nothing wrong with having lady our Ladies' Day program, who is a spoken word artist. Let some of my older sisters know we're trying to reach that next generation. And we can't just be stuck in a way to do it where they are in order to elevate them.
Thank you for that. I'm seeing Valerie Colbert Asamwadi commenting. Thank you so much. She really was not able to be with us, but we would have loved to have her. But she says we must educate people on the practical impact of what voting affects. Judges and prosecutors impact criminal justice. Attorney generals that protect against price gouging during the pandemic, protecting consumer rights. Legislators, state and local, that write laws that affect our daily lives. Thank you. Great segue to, so in my mind, I'm thinking, right? I've got this brain trust of people in Love and Stuff. And I'm thinking, let's write a manifesto that the average person can take into their community and impact change. A letter that they can then sign to or email and send to their congresspeople, places where they can go to learn more about the process in addition to what we will do in this year in Love and Stuff. And so I put you on the spot without asking you this part, see how ingenious I am. I'm looking to this group and a couple of other people who are in the inbox to come up with that, because I think that among the intelligent leadership, even though you might consider yourselves nano influencers or less, that's the social media term when you have less than 10,000 followers.
Nano.
And maybe you will become a macro influencer and have 100,000 plus. But where we can impact the folks that we can impact, I think it will be great for us to have a manifesto that says, these are the things we want you to think about in your states where there is suppressive language happening, because there are people that don't even know that there's language, that voter suppression that's happening in their states. There are people that don't know that their state senators are considering language in their states. And so if they had a letter that, you know, Brenda's an excellent writer, so is everybody else in this call, and so is Val. And if you all thought through it and said, hey, here's the letter we want you to send to your state legislature to say this. Here's what we want you to take to your pastor. Here's what we want you to put on your social media platform so that we can start to awaken people to the things that they need to say. Is that something that you think that we can do? And what are the other kinds of things that you would say? How do we reach the average citizen who may not be connected yet in an organization or not yet aware?
I say yes. Yes, something that could be done, should be done. Brilliant idea. I don't know if I'm thanking you for pitching it on me like that, but no, I'm kidding. No, very, very, very good. Thank you for that. Listen, right quick. Dr. King says, and I bring this in the sense of those who think that it takes a whole lot of us to start out doing it, to get it done right. Doc says this. He says, almost always, the creative, dedicated minority has made the world a better place. So I don't want us to be frustrated that it's just, you know, everybody's not on board. It's just the creative minority that does that. And so with the encouragement, that, yes, it can be done.
I agree. 312, then 120. Turn the world upside down. So just kind of get your head wrapped around that. 3, then 12, then 3 of the 12, and then 120. Turn the world upside down, and we can think about that in as far as the movement is concerned. I think it's necessary. I think it's a wonderful idea, Marcus, and I know you have a plethora of those that run through your head all the time. It's a matter of connection. It's a matter of us getting on the same page. I think that far too often in our community, there are all these pockets of people trying to do something and no one willing to acquiesce to the leadership of it to say, okay, let's get it done. And so we find ourselves stalled and running in mazes because we're so busy trying to have someone who is, you know, we keep looking for this messianic individual when it's each of us. It's each of us where we are. And we've got to get to a point where we understand that it's each of us and what we bring to the proverbial table that says, I have what I have and I lay it on the table. And when each of us does that, then when it happens, whoever emerges in leadership, it is not about who's in charge. It's about the goal. It's about the purpose. It's about getting it done. And so I'm grateful for, you know, being a part of that, and anything that we can get done, anything that we can any way that we can contribute together to make that happen, I'm on board.
Wonderful. Brenda, you want to add anything?
Let Val know I'm so glad to see her on the program. Prayers of healing for her. And I agree. You know, it's within us to serve, and through that service, we need greatness. So yes, I'm a little surprised that you on us, but I'm going to accept that because I can tell you it works. As many of you know, my youngest son, I've been involved with the office for a number of years, and one of the ways that they have used that power to get legislation passed is they send every member of the organization for you to send your respective representatives. And again, people respond. If I'm getting 100 from my constituents and I those 110 others, I'm going to respond to that. So, yes, it is great when you have a million-man march or a mega movement, but you can also start with a small ripple, and it can develop into a tsunami of movement toward greater justice.
Yeah, you said it better than I could have ever put words to say it. That's exactly what I'm thinking. Yeah. Because I think we're waiting for these Herculean efforts, and some of those Herculean efforts are just the small steps that you and I can take to do many of the things that we're waiting for someone to come in and pitch to us or start for us. We can start right where we are, and it can grow to something that I think we all will look back and say, wow, this is really, I'm going to say the Lord's doing, though I know there are people who practice various faiths, because I believe that his doing is for the call of justice for all. And so I think we have to walk in that space. I just want to acknowledge Anika Hop, Pomahab, who is across seas, and I probably aren't speaking all of your language, but I'm grateful for you on YouTube, as well as Eunice Hunter, Tabitha Goodner, Mary Stewart, Carl Williams, all of you who have joined us across platforms. I just wanted to shout you out. Rochelle Weathers, J. Gerald Harvey IV, Daisy Simmons, Brenda Moraney, Shakur Dukes, all of you. I hope that you will click share, and I hope once this manifesto is ready, because listen, these are some brilliant minds. I envision that this is going to, I'm not even worthy to unlace their shoes, as John the Baptist would say about Jesus, right? But I think this brain trust will be able to put together something that you can put into action right where you live. Instead of thinking, I have to become the next NAACP leader, you can be the leader on your block. You can be the leader in your Sunday school class. You can be the leader in your fraternity among your peers and fans. You can be the leader on your job. Just to share this manifesto and get people to commit to it, and then put it to action. Where you learn information about the process, you share that information. Where you learn information about law, voter suppression laws that are before state legislatures. If you live in Texas, but you learn something about Michigan, you send it to your cousins in Michigan.
That's right.
Something about West Virginia, you send it to the folks in West Virginia, much like we would pack a bag of chicken and send it on the road in the car. You send that information to the people who can do something in their state with that information. And social media is just another tool, a vehicle to get the information out more quickly to them. And you don't need 1,000 followers to do that. You don't have to be a celebrity to do that. You just have to be committed to executing a plan that says we want people to be intelligent voters, and we want people to vote with their minds, their hearts, and their pockets. And here is a way that we go about doing that to advance the things that matter for us, the causes of justice and equality and equity, that we might realize some of those things in the spirit of this great drum major for justice. The beat, as Valencia said earlier, we got to march to that beat. We got to keep that beat going. And this is just one of the ways that I think that we do that. So I want everybody to make sure that you're sharing this broadly.
One of the things we have to be very conscious of are dates in our particular municipalities. And that's one of the things we have to make sure we get out there. Everybody's date is different. And we need to make sure that if you know your date, just put your date out there. Don't wait for somebody at some governmental official to get stuff out. If you know that, the last day to register to vote is February 18th, as it is in Texas, or the last date to get to ask for a mail-in vote ballot is February 18th. No, they need to do it now.
Yeah,
because there's a trick in the mail system, and we know the trick. So don't let people wait till February 16th to do it. Let's get it done now. I'm just saying little things like that, dates getting out there. You know, just like we drop little things on our pages that are of no consequence to anybody. Let's drop some stuff that matters to the lives of people so that they can say, I didn't know that. My grandmother needs to know that because she needs to vote by mail. My uncle can't, he had an issue during COVID and now he can't stand in the line. Let me get him that information so that he can make sure that he can still vote and still can do that duty that they care about sometimes a whole lot more than many of us who are younger. So we just need to be vigilant about it. Yeah.
Yes, I think that's a big thing, and thank you for that. And we're trying to synthesize that information to be able to disseminate it so that, because there are a number of gubernatorial races and people might not know, and so they need to know all the dates and cutoff dates, just as you said. So we're trying to synthesize all that information so that, again, you can share that information from state to state and city to city and wherever it needs to be shared. So thank you for that. Absolutely. Absolutely. All right, we're going to go to your closing statements. And if you could just talk to us in a closing statement, look into that camera and say, if you could do one thing to advance the cause of voting in the spirit of Dr. King this year, what would you say to somebody to do? Go. That must be the delay. Go.
I'll go. The one thing is that nothing is as it appears. And you don't have an idea of what's really going on behind the scenes. So all of your energy, all of your intelligence has to be brought to the power that you have to vote. And you cannot vote alone.
Okay. All right. Okay.
I'll go and let Sister Bracewell go last, since I know that there's power in what she's going to tell us about the voting process. So let me just say this. My word to us is stay awake. Stay woke, as we say. Do not slip. Don't let yourself slip into a place of numbness. Don't allow a pandemic lull to take over. Stay woke. Stay alert. Stay knowledgeable. Stay in the fight. Don't let down now. It's too easy and it's too expected for us to stay on the sidelines so that we have no impact on what's getting ready to happen in politics, in voting. And I'm hopeful that what we do is decide, okay, we may not even talk about it like you think we would, but we're going to show you by the way that we do not let any weapon that's formed against us, and it's formed, trust is formed, but we will not let it prosper. We'll trust God, but we will also know that we've got to get up. We've got to stand up, we've got to speak up, and then we've got to vote like never before.
Yes. And Brenda?
Again, Marcus, thank you so much for the invitation. And one of my mantras, one, teach one, and reach one. And we understand the power. If you save $25 a day, just take your lunch of buying your lunch, that's $1 a year. So I use that same principle with voting. It's not you to vote, but each time, make sure you reach out and you advise 10 other people. What are the last dates to get your ballot? What is the last day for registration? And then if each of those reach 10 people, we sometimes just don't truly the power of community. So if each one teach one, we can have a wave of justice that will take this country by storm. Because I guarantee you, the adversary, they, like I said, they're no longer using dogs and fire hoses, but they are trying to beat us back at every opportunity up and realize we don't wrestle just in blood, but we have that strength and the faith to step out and make it happen.
Thank you so much. I'm so pleased that all of you have joined me. And as you know, and maybe our viewers know, and some may not know, Love and Stuff really started when I was talking about the faithless electors. I had no intention of starting a community called Love and Stuff. I was simply having some dialogue with a young man who isn't here as well today, Byron Stanfield, who we wanted to be on the panel, but he is experiencing the loss of yet another sibling within, I think, less than a year. And so he couldn't be with us tonight, but we were talking about the faithless elector because I'll be honest, I did not want Donald Trump as president. I'll say that now, in case they shut me down. I was trying to go back to the things I learned in civics about this loophole. And all of these people started to say, hey, these people that you're talking to, they're handsome, they're beautiful. And that's how the community of Love and Stuff came together around the faithless elector discussion. So I always harken back to that because a part of love is the pursuit of justice. A part of love is the pursuit of self, but a part of love is the pursuit of justice. And so that's always a part, it's interwoven in the thread of Love and Stuff and the Love and Stuff community, that there is this beloved community that's not only seeking the love of itself, but seeking the love of justice for others. And so to have the opportunity now, some years later, to say there is another level that we could take, I'm excited about what the future of our community is as it relates to this aspect. We're not a monolith. We're not one dimensional, whatever I was going to say. But we have many different aspects and facets of the community. But one that rings true in my heart, that is so dear to my heart, is voting. And it could just simply be, my friends, because I had a dad who told me stories about poll tricks that they played that I really didn't have an understanding of what that was. And he would always tell me, I thank God that you weren't born in that day because they would have lynched you. They would certainly have lynched you. But he told me about the tricks that were played on him, and he had to go to different places to vote. And I didn't really believe that at first. And then I learned that that was so true, that the precious sacred right has been under assault from before that time till today. And how you and I have a role in ensuring that everybody understands that sacred privilege and uses it to advance the cause of love at the price of justice. And so I'm excited that I've had the opportunity to have all of you here. And I hope that others that are going through this year with many resolutions and many things that you're putting before you, that you will include in the things that you will achieve this year, is to get those that are around you educated, inspired, and encouraged around voting and its power in this critical time. As Val Colbert is saying, this battle is real and so consequential to our future. It cannot be overstated that this democracy is in trouble. It's been in trouble a long time, but if ever there were trouble, there is trouble brewing and rising. And it feels to me more overt than I've ever seen in my lifetime. And so I think it is calling us. There's a clarion call to love, to pay the price of justice and get engaged. And I hope that you will answer that call, and you'll be hearing more from the Love and Stuff community on this manifesto and how we can come together to just make a difference where we are. If we just make a difference where we are, what a monumental impact we will have. Thank you, Valencia Etner, Darren Williams, Brenda Bracewell, and thank those of you that are watching across all platforms. Love and Stuff, the Marcus R. Holmes page here on Facebook.
Thank you, Marcus.
and via restream on YouTube events, Twitch TV, and LinkedIn Live. I hope you will share this content and join us on this road to ensuring that everybody counts, because voting matters. Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you for the invitation, Marcus.
Thank you, Marcus.
Thank you.
Doc, you did it again.
I have the pleasure to present to you Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr.
I am happy to join with you today in what will go down in history as the greatest demonstration for freedom in the history of our nation.